It is a warm, quiet evening, and your home feels like an impenetrable sanctuary of comfort. You walk into the bedroom, kick off your shoes, and just as you are about to sink into sleep, you hear it. A rhythmic, scratching hiss originating from the dark, narrow void right beneath your bed. It sounds like dozens of tiny, armored needles dragging along the baseboard. You freeze, instinctively grabbing a flashlight, and sweep the beam across the floorboards. The light catches a glistening, dark amber ribbon of pure muscle, undulating with terrifying speed on 30 or 40 neon orange legs. It is a centipede, but not the fragile house variety you are used to. This is a giant Scolopendra. Your heart hammers against your ribs, and a wave of primal revulsion washes over you. This reaction is completely understandable. It is a universal human instinct to recoil from a creature that looks like it was engineered specifically to inhabit our worst nightmares. In that frantic second, as you look around for the heaviest boot or an entire can of chemical spray, your brain screams that you are trapped in a room with a tiny, malicious demon whose only purpose is to inflict pain. For generations, we have labeled this creature as an agent of absolute, unprovoked malice. The rumors surrounding it are legendary, warning that a single strike from its fangs is a definitive death sentence for a human being. But that panic is a lie, not even close. While its bite is undeniably painful, the myth of its fatal toxicity is heavily exaggerated. In reality, the frantic intruder sprinting across your floor has absolutely no interest in you. In fact, without even realizing it, you have just come face to face with the most elite, heavily armored private security asset the natural world has to offer. This creature is not an invading monster. It is a silent, lethal bodyguard keeping watch over the deep perimeter of your home. To truly understand this creature, you have to look past the initial shock and examine its blueprint, because evolution did not build a pest, it built a heavy armored personnel carrier. If you instinctively slam a standard house slipper onto its back, you will notice something deeply unsettling. It simply ignores the blow and keeps moving. This is not a fragile insect that can be easily crushed. The Scolopendra's body is encased in overlapping flexible plates of reinforced chitin that act like medieval plate armor. This structural design distributes external pressure so efficiently that it can withstand forces that would instantly liquefy almost any other creature of its size. But its defensive shell is only half the story. The real engineering marvel is located right beneath its head. Those massive, wicked pincers that everyone mistakes for jaws are not actually mouthparts at all. They are forcipules. Millions of years ago, these were ordinary walking legs, but evolution painstakingly hollowed them out, sharpened the tips into hypodermic needles, and connected them directly to internal venom reservoirs. Imagine walking around with two loaded, spring-powered medical syringes permanently attached to your chest. That is the reality of the Scolopendra. It is a biological breaching tool designed to instantly neutralize anything that crosses its path. Yet, despite being armed to the teeth, this microscopic tank is completely devoid of malice. It never enters your living space with the intent to hunt you. Why would it? To a Scolopendra, a human being is not prey. You are a shifting, unpredictable mountain, a massive geological hazard that represents nothing but danger. Its aggressive posturing is not an act of war. It is sheer, desperate self-defense. It wanders into your home, simply seeking darkness, tightly enclosed spaces, and moisture, totally unaware that its presence causes absolute panic. But while it actively tries to avoid your heavy footsteps, its relentless mechanical search for a quiet corner turns it into something else entirely. Without a single word of agreement, this blind juggernaut becomes a permanent, hyper-aggressive border patrol agent, and the targets it hunts are the ones you should actually be worried about. However, behind this terrifying facade of armor and venom lies an evolutionary price that makes the Scolopendra's existence surprisingly tragic. This biological tank operates almost completely in the dark. It is practically blind. The tiny clusters of simple eyes on its head can do little more than distinguish between bright sunlight and pitch blackness. Imagine navigating a world of immense dangers where you are essentially a ghost, sensing reality entirely through the ultra-sensitive vibrations under your feet and the chemical signatures floating in the air. For the Scolopendra, every second of life is a chaotic puzzle solved by touch. It lives in a state of eternal vulnerability, relying on its long, delicate antennae to read the geometry of your floorboards. But this ruthless, blind hunter possesses a hidden side that shatters everything we think we know about insect behavior. It is capable of profound, sacrificial devotion. When a female Scolopendra lays her eggs, her entire identity shifts from a relentless predator into an intensely protective mother. She does not simply abandon her offspring in the dirt. Instead, she curls her heavily armored body into a tight, defensive knot, completely wrapping herself around her fragile clutch of eggs. For several weeks, she remains frozen in this position, refusing to leave even for a second. She will not hunt. She will not drink. If deadly mold or predatory fungi threaten the nest, she meticulously licks every single egg to keep them sterile and healthy. As the days blend together, her own body begins to wither away from starvation. She literally wastes to a shadow of her former strength, driven entirely by the instinct to ensure her young survive. If she is disturbed during this critical period, the stress can be so overwhelming that she might destroy the nest herself, a heartbreaking evolutionary glitch born from sheer panic. But if left alone, this terrifying monster completes a masterclass in maternal care, sacrificing her own health so that a new generation of tiny, pale tanks can emerge into the dark. It is a stunning display of tenderness from a creature built entirely for war, and it prepares her for the brutal, chaotic conflicts that await her out on the open floorboards. And it is exactly this lethal engineering and unyielding survival instinct that takes center stage when midnight falls and the house grows dead silent. While you are fast asleep, a completely different kind of visitor can slip under the front door. In warmer regions, this is often a deadly bark scorpion or a juvenile venomous viper, quiet, camouflaged, and packing a neurotoxic bite that could easily land an adult human in the intensive care unit. They glide across your living room rug entirely undetected, heading straight toward the hallway. But before they can get anywhere near your bedroom, they cross an invisible tripwire. The Scolopendra detects the faint rhythmic thud of their movement through the floorboards. There is no hesitation, no warning rattle, and absolutely no fear. The heavy armored personnel carrier immediately initiates a high-speed intercept vector. What follows is an absolute clash of titans right on your kitchen tiles. The scorpion strikes first, driving its stinger repeatedly into the centipede's side, while a viper might plunge its fangs directly into her head. Any other creature would drop dead within seconds, but the Scolopendra operates on a completely different defensive tier. She possesses a staggering, near-total evolutionary immunity to local neurotoxins and hemotoxins. The enemy's ultimate weapons are practically useless. Meanwhile, her own heavy chitinous plating deflects the physical force of the strikes like bulletproof glass. That is when the trap is sprung. The centipede deploys a brutal, overwhelming grappling tactic, wrapping her dozens of powerful legs around the invader like a coil of living razor wire, completely pinning their weapons. Once the target is immobilized, she drives her massive, venomous forcipules deep into the weak points of their armor or scales. It is a methodical, mechanical termination. Within minutes, a lethal threat that could have genuinely endangered your family is reduced to a quiet midnight protein meal. Without your knowledge, and without asking for a single word of thanks, this terrifying juggernaut has just successfully held the line, neutralizing a genuine hazard while you were peacefully dreaming. When you look at your home this way, the entire narrative shifts. The Scolopendra is not a chaotic parasite invading your space out of spite. It is the heavy artillery of your household ecosystem, a specialized asset deployed to handle the threats that standard house spiders and chemical traps simply cannot touch. Where others see a repulsive monster, nature sees an indispensable tactical filter. It relentlessly sweeps the dark, forgotten corners beneath your floorboards, keeping the deep perimeter safe from silent invaders. So the next time you hear that distinct metallic scratching sound behind the drywall, or catch a glimpse of an orange-legged ribbon slipping beneath a doorway, do not rush to launch an all-out war. Your panic is a completely natural reaction. But before you reach for the heaviest boot, take a slow breath and remember what is actually happening. You are looking at a hyper-focused, near-blind tank that has survived on this planet for hundreds of millions of years, navigating a world of absolute shadows. It does not want your food, it does not want your attention, and it will go to extreme lengths to avoid a direct confrontation with you. All it asks for is a sliver of darkness, a damp corner, and the freedom to do the job evolution designed it for. If you cannot bear the thought of sharing a roof with it, simply use a long broom to gently guide it into a deep bucket and escort it safely to the garden outside. No drama, no execution, and no unnecessary chemicals. Let this ancient armored sentinel keep holding a line out where the shadows are deep and the real dangers are waiting. If this intense midnight story completely reframed the way you look at the monsters under your bed, hit that like button and subscribe. Nature never creates a weapon without a purpose, and sometimes the creature you fear the most is the only thing standing between you and a genuine nightmare.